So, today what we'll be working on is solving basic equations. Now, when we are solving basic equations, we have to have two or three steps to it. Now, the first step that we have to follow is we have to make sure that we have a let statement. This basically tells us what our variables are. Now, imagine we have this example here. It says Kylie builds wooden canoes and snow shovels in her carpentry shop, right? It takes her 3 hours to build a pair of shoes, snowshoes, and 7 hours to build a canoe. Last week, she made 3 canoes and worked a total of 60 hours. So here's what we can do in order to make the variables for this basic equation. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to let C be the number of canoes. And now that we've set C to be the number of canoes that we have that Kylie makes every week, then we have to look at the number of snowshoes. In this case, we want to know how many snowshoes. So we need to have a nice letter for snowshoes. Let's call it the letter S, and we'll make it the letter S, the script S. And that's how we write it. We let S be the script S, be the number of shoes that we have for our canoe. So here's what you know. It says here in our problem, it says that last week she made 3 canoes. Last week she made 3 canoes. So I can say the following. So C is equal to 3. So that's the number of canoes. We can say that C is the number of canoes. So C is equal to 3. Boom, that's good. So now let's call that equation number 1. So the other thing that they told us earlier was the following. They said it takes 3 hours to build snowshoes. So for every 3 hours that we have here, so for every 3 S's, for every S number of shoes, it takes 3 hours, right? And then we're going to add the number of, are you ready for this? The hours to build a canoe. And it takes 7 hours to build a canoe. All right, so if it takes 7 hours to build one canoe, and the total amount of hours that we worked that week was 60, that's how we get our second equation here. Now that we have that, we just have to sub the number, what we have for number 1, into equation 2. So let me explain what I mean by that. You see where we have the C in equation 2. You'll notice that at the beginning you said that C was equal to 3. So that means we're going to replace C with 3 in the second equation. Okay, so let's go and do that substitution. So we have 3S plus 21 is equal to 60. Now, how did I get 21? Let me explain. When we did the substitution, all that means is we have 7 times 3, don't we? So now we have 3S plus 21 equals 60. And now we go and move all our numbers to one side and our letters to one side, and then we're good to go. So let's go and do that right now. So we have 60 minus 21 is 3s. Solve for s. So now we're going to keep going over here. So we have 3s is equal to 39. And then we divide both sides by 3. And we end up with the number of shoes being 13. And then we literally just say the number of shoes is 13. Now, the only thing I didn't talk about when we were doing these problems was we set up what our let statements were. 2, we have to do some sort of substitution. And then we must 3, solve for what we're looking for. And that's it. There's not much more to it. Those 3 steps are what we follow each time. Sometimes you solve for one variable, sometimes you have to solve for both, right? Now, just remember, at the beginning of the problem, what we had to do was we had to take a look at our problem, and we had to decode the problem by first letting us know what each of the letters would be in our equation, okay? Then you need to read 1 or 2 of the sentences to figure out what, say, one of your variables is equal to, or what one set of equations is equal to. So the first one that I got was C is equaling 3 because I looked at this part. It said last week she made 3 canoes and she worked a total of 60 hours. So because she worked 60 hours, I said, okay, the total hours was 60 here, right? But then it said it takes 3 hours to make 1 set of shoes and 7 hours to make 1 canoe. Now, the previous week, she made 3 canoes. So we're going to take our 3 canoes and we're going to plug it into our equation. And that's why we're doing that substitution, because we knew that our original equations had C equaling 3. So we can take that easy thing and plug it into our equation and find what our S value is. And from there, we work through to get to our final solution, and we end up with the number of shoes being 13. And we're done.